What's going on? Are you somebody who's getting into PC building, or are you about to build your own PC? Well, I'm about to give you a full tutorial on how to build your PC. It's going to be quick, easy, and fast, so that way you can understand simple concepts, and essentially all this stuff is just adult Legos. So let's go ahead and get started into building this PC right here. Alright, you're probably thinking, wow, these are a lot of parts. Yeah, it is a lot of parts. There's a lot of components that go into a computer. You got your RAM, you got your CPU, your GPU, your motherboard, your power supply, your case, your CPU, I think I already said that. You got a bunch of different components that go into a computer, but it's kind of simple. So I'm just going to go off and list the basic functions of each one of these parts and what they are. So this right here is the CPU. This is a Ryzen 5 5600X. The X on the end just means that it's capable of being overclocked, so pushed a little bit higher so that speeds can go a little faster. CPU handles all the functions within the computer. It's kind of, some people like to say the brains, but then some people don't like to say the brains. But essentially it handles all tasks and tells everything else what to do. This right here is the graphics card. This is a Radeon RX 6600. The graphics card essentially allows you to see graphics. So if you want to have better graphics in a game, you're going to want a better graphics card. That's essentially, in simple terms, this is made to be simple so people can understand. This is meant for you to be able to see the graphics on the computer screen and play video games at a better frame rate and stuff like that. Graphics card. Next we have the RAM. This right here is some G.Skill Ripjaws 16 gigabytes of 3200 megahertz. So this is DDR4, so it comes in different variations, but essentially all the RAM does is the better the RAM, the more things you can have open at once. So RAM is like how many things you can kind of remember at once, and the more RAM you have, the more things you can remember. So if I open Google and I'm opening a bunch of tabs, the RAM is allowing me to open all those tabs and all those different programs and features on the system itself. So this is the RAM. This isn't really necessary, but these are RGB strips. LED lights that go into the computer case, that you can make it look a little aesthetic and fancy. Some people prefer to not have RGB, some people do. It's just a preference. That's what RGB LED light strips are. This is M.2. This right here is a PCIe Gen 3 M.2 2280 SSD. So 2280 is just the type of size that it is. So you want to make sure that your motherboard supports the same type. So this essentially holds all your storage and allows everything that you put on your computer to be stored, and that way once you turn your computer off, it'll still be stored on this device right here. That's the SSD. Next we have the motherboard. Motherboard right here, this is the B550 Gaming X V2. So what the motherboard allows is for all the other components to be put on the motherboard. So the graphics card, the CPU, the RAM, the storage, all that stuff is put on the motherboard, and the motherboard allows all these different components to talk to each other so they can tell each other what they need and what they're doing, so that way they can all interact to provide a function so you can play your games or complete your tasks on your computer. So that right there is a clear concept of what the motherboard is. Next we have something that is very detrimental to your whole PC. So all the components are important, but if you don't have this puppy, the power supply, it kind of hints the name, this gives power to your whole system. This right here powers all these other parts. This will power the motherboard, which will spread it all to the other parts to allow for everything to function properly. Power supply. This right here is a computer case. Computer cases come in all different sizes and shapes, but there are a couple things you need to keep in mind when you're getting a computer case. So you want to make sure that your motherboard will fit inside your computer case, and you want to also make sure that there's no dimension issues. So whenever you're fitting your graphics cards, some graphics cards are too big. You want to make sure you check over all of those prior to building your case or getting your case. But essentially a couple things you want to make sure is that your case has good airflow. So the case is meant to provide all your components with proper amount of airflow to stay at proper temperatures, so that way they can function properly. The triple P's. Properly. And now we'll move on to a step-by-step easy guide on how to build your computer just like Legos. Alright, so when you're building a computer, you want to find your style, But just for now, if you're brand new to building a computer, just follow me and my steps, and it's going to make you able to build your first computer easy peasy, no problem. So I like to start off with the motherboard. I will take the motherboard out and then I'll lay it on top, and what we're going to do is we're going to start adding components to the motherboard, like the CPU, the RAM, the storage, things of that nature. It makes it easier, so that way you can just put it all on the motherboard and then put it in the case, and then add a couple extra features, plug in some cables, and you're pretty much good to go from there. So we'll start with the motherboard. Alright, so we have the motherboard out. There's a couple things you're going to want to grab. You're going to want to grab your CPU, your RAM, and if you have an M.2, grab your M.2. So that's what we're going to do. We got our M.2, our RAM, and our CPU. So we're going to take these things out, and I'm going to show you step by step how to place each one of these on your motherboard. Okay, so we've taken out the CPU, the RAM, and the M.2 SSD. So I'm going to show you exactly what comes in the box and explain a couple things prior to putting things on. So you have your CPU, and it comes with, most of the time, a stock cooler. So the stock cooler is pretty much, most of the time, the only thing you'll really need for airflow on your CPU, unless you're trying to do some overclocking and stuff. So right now we don't have any stock cooler or anything other than the stock cooler, so that's what we're using this. Next we have the M.2. Pretty simple. M.2 is pretty much the only thing that comes with it. And we have the RAM. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and put the CPU on first. So you'll notice on the board there's going to be, you will lift this up, you'll lift the little latch up, and you'll notice on your CPU, on it there is, if you look carefully, open it up, take it out. Alright, if you look right here, there's a triangle right here that's going to also match up with the triangle on the board. So what you're going to want to do is find that triangle in the corner of the CPU, and then find that triangle in the corner of the board, and you're just going to line them up, and then you're going to put the lever back down. You should, once you put it in, kind of feel it drop down. That's fine. And then it might take a little bit of force to close this lever. That's also fine. And you're just going to flip that back in place. So the next thing we're going to install is the RAM. So keep in mind that you want to, if you have two RAM sticks, you want to put them one in A1 and one in B1. And when I say A1 and B1, these RAM slots right here are labeled. For example, it'll show it somewhere on the side, like right here. It says that this is A1, this is A2, A3, or B1, B2. So we want to put one in this slot and then this slot. What that's going to do is allow for dual channel memory. So it's going to allow for you to get faster memory speeds and open up 2 channels of memory instead of just keeping it with 1. So we're going to go ahead and install RAM. One thing you want to make sure that you notice is you line up the RAM properly. So this is a little bit shorter on one end. So if you don't line it up properly, you will break the teeth, and you're going to need to buy a new RAM module. So don't break the teeth. Make sure you're properly lining it up, and then just click it in. So we're lining it up, making sure that's right. As you can see, we have it lined up. It's in there. You're going to push down evenly on both sides. You hear 2 clicks, you're good to go. You can try and pull it out, nothing. You also notice on the sides it's clicked in all the way. So we're good to go on that one. Now we're going to put one in B1. And if you forget or it's hard to tell how it's lined up, you can just match it off with the next one. So you see how G.Skill is spelled the same way here? That's how we know we're aligned properly. We're just going to line that up, and then we're just going to slide it in that slot. Once again, push down evenly. 2 clicks, and we're good. Alright, next we're going to move on to the M.2. M.2 is right here. M.2 is right there. Essentially the way it will work is we're going to take this, we're going to need our screwdriver, so we're going to unscrew this, We're gonna slide this in there like that, and then screw it down. Or in there like this, and then screw it down. So me personally, I use this little kit. You can use any kind of screwdriver, honestly. Just make sure it's small enough to fit this screw hole. And yeah, so we're gonna get a screw, unscrew that, and then I'll catch back up with you. Alright. As you can see, we've unscrewed it. This little screw. Make sure you do not lose that. Place it somewhere important where you won't forget it. Alright. So we're going to take our M.2. We're going to line it up with these little threads, as you can see right here. Push it in. Clicks a little bit. We're going to take our screw. We're going to line it back up and then screw it down. Make the screw a little snug. Don't strip it because you might have to take this out one day to troubleshoot or something. Alright, so now that we have everything on here, the next thing we're going to work on is putting the cooler on the CPU. So as you can see here, there's 2 screws here, 2 screws here. And if we look on the bottom of the motherboard, there's a little pad right here. This little pad, what it allows is for you to put your CPU cooler on. So we might have to take these off because sometimes the stock coolers, they come with their own that you put on there. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So as you can see right here, thermal paste is already applied. So once you put it on, it will be applied evenly, thermal paste all over your CPU to keep proper temperatures. So as you can see, this is kind of like a push down. So what you do here is you take it and you push it down and it'll click in. And you can screw it to click it, or screw it in and secure it. So we are going to have to remove these so that way it will secure into that flat metal plate that's on the bottom of the motherboard. So let's go ahead and take these 2 pieces off. Alright, as you can see, we can line it up just like this. But one thing you want to keep in mind is making sure you put this somewhere where you can plug it in. So every motherboard will have what we call a CPU fan header. So this essentially powers this fan so that it can keep cooling the CPU. You have to plug it in. So if you plug it in like this, it might be hard to reach over there and plug it in on some motherboards. But for this one particularly, we don't have an issue. So we're just going to plug it in. And as you can see, we're going to line it up. So as you can see right here, sometimes you try and put them on and it's bumping into the RAM slot, so you might have to just turn it a little bit onto the other side and try it that way. So we're going to line them up with each screw hole. And we're just going to start evenly screwing it in. So we'll take our screwdriver. You'll hear it start tightening some. And you'll feel it catch, and you want to make sure you screw this evenly or it will not screw in each side. So just like you would do a car tire or something, you're gonna tighten it just like that. Alright, and you'll feel it secure, and you should be able to just kind of lift it up like that. You don't want to lift it up too hard or anything, but you should be able to have that much force that it could just lift up. So next what we're going to do, if you read carefully here, it'll say CPU fan. And there are 2 CPU fans here. So we're just going to put it on this first one, which is the primary one. And it will line up. It's essentially, there's a little rivet right here. And it lines up with this part right here. Just push it down and it will line up. And we can just kind of push this cable under to the side. So that way it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. It looks a little bit more neat. So after this, the next process we got the CPU on there. We got the RAM. And we also have the M.2. So after this, what we're going to do is we're going to put it inside of the case. We're going to mount it up. And then we're going to add the graphics card. And we're also going to put in the power supply and RGB strips. And from that point, it should power on and we'll be good to go. Okay guys, we're going to set the motherboard to the side for a second. We're going to focus here on the case. And I'm going to show you exactly a couple things that you want to make sure you remember when you're dealing with your case. So your case is going to come with a couple things inside. Sometimes I have loose brackets, but that's just so you can clear or have extra pieces in case you need to put them on the back. It comes with a manual. Most of the times if you run into any problems, you can use the manual, or I like to Google things. Google is king. So it's going to also come with inside a baggie. Most of the time there's going to be things like screws, zip ties, things that you're gonna need that you can use for the case. Things like zip ties for cable management, screws to screw in the board, things of that nature. Set that to the side. And we're also going to take the back panel off too as well. So we're just going to unscrew that real quick. And what's so cool about this case itself is it has its own little fan controller. A fan controller is just something that a stick has all the fans connected to it, and essentially you only need to plug in one fan or one little female connector into the male connector, and then you're good to go. All the other fans will power on. Pretty cool, neat feature about this case. So it's falling out, but it's magnet, which is pretty cool. It looks like so. Just put it like right there while we work on our case. Alright, so one thing you're going to want to notice are there are little holes right here. These are for your screws. You want to make sure these line up with these little standoffs on the motherboard. So you really want to make sure they line up, because the last thing you want to do is put your motherboard in here and then you screw in like almost all of them and you realize like the last one you're screwing in is not there. So then you have to take them all out, take the motherboard out. The big hassle, just line them up, make sure it's proper. So that's what we're gonna do. And a good way of doing this is just kind of setting the motherboard to the side, I like to do, and then just kind of looking at them and comparing them. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. And I think we're gonna have to add a couple standoffs, but that's fine, I'll show you how to do that. So if you take this little baggie out of the bag that comes with the case, there will be standoffs inside of here along with extra screws in case you lose a couple. So that's a pretty neat thing that comes in most cases. So yeah, right here is what the standoffs will look like. Essentially you take them and you'll screw them in these little slots, and you can just use your hand, screw them in and tighten them a little bit, finger tight, and you'll be good from there. So that's what we're gonna go ahead and do. Put all the ones that we don't have in, and then I'm gonna show you how to mount the motherboard inside. Okay guys, something to notice is most cases, most motherboards will come with this little AIO panel, and what you'll do is you put it in here and you snap it in place. Essentially it's made to protect all these input and output ports on the back of your motherboard, but this particular motherboard, it comes with it naturally like on the motherboard, so it just kind of snaps in and it's covered by itself. But in general, most motherboards will come with something that will protect the ports, so keep that in mind. If you put in your motherboard and you have this little silver panel thing and you're wondering what it is, it's the AIO. Not AIO, the input output panel protector, essentially. Alright guys, so I'm going to show you how to put this motherboard in, and exactly a good technique that I use. Everybody has different techniques, but this is the way I like to do it. So I'll take my motherboard, I will lay the case down. Sometimes for just video purposes, for it to look cool and you guys can see, I'll put the case, or I'll put the motherboard in while the case is standing up. It's way easier to put it in when the case is down, common sense, but I'm just going to do it the easy way. That way you can follow my footsteps and understand how to build it easy and simple and get your computer up and running again. So we're going to take this motherboard, we're going to set it in here at an angle, make sure it doesn't get caught on anything. We're just going to line it up with all of these different things. So we're going to make sure at the back of where the input output ports are, we're going to make sure that those are lined up with the back panel, and then we're also going to line these holes up to match the screws, and then we're just going to start screwing them in. So every little screw hole, make sure you put a screw in there, tighten it, secure it, because you're going to put your graphics card on here and you don't want it like bending and anything. Just put all the screws in, okay? Listen to me. This is where the screws that came with the with the case are going to come in handy. You can use these screws to put in on your motherboard. So I'm going to show you exactly what these screws look like. So these screws look like this. Kind of get a better view. This is what those screws look like. So that way you're not trying to figure out of all these screws which one you're supposed to be using. So yeah, let's screw this in and then we'll pick up next. Okay guys, next thing we're going to do is we're going to install the power supply. So the way you're going to want to do that is lift the case up, and as you can see, have this little hole right here in the majority of most cases. We're going to take our power supply out, and I'm going to show you how you can fit this in there and what particular screws you're going to do to screw it in. But it's as simple as just sliding it in, screwing in 4 screws, and then you're good from there. But let's go over it, make it a little simple, so that way if anything's confusing, you understand. Okay, I'm about to learn you something. Check it out. So with power supplies, this is pretty much what you'll get in your power supply. You'll get the actual power supply unit. You'll get some cables. The cables may or may not be attached. Some might be attached. I'll explain that in a second. And you'll get a user manual, and you'll also get the power cable itself. It's about the most that comes in power supply. So the thing with the cables is there are 3 types of power supplies. There are fully modular, non-modular, and semi-modular. So non-modular means there's no modulation, you can't do anything. This right here is a non-modular power supply, meaning that all the cables are already attached. And you're probably asking, well, why would you want a fully modular one? Well, a couple of reasons, because maybe you don't need all these cables. Like, I'm not going to use the power fan cable, I'm not going to use the SATA cable because I have an M.2, it's plugged on the motherboard, things like that. It's just taking up room, and so a lot of times it just makes it harder to just cable manage, so people don't want that. Maybe also you want to add extensions, cable extensions, makes it easier. And then we also have semi-modular, where there's half and half. So maybe the important cables like the motherboard cable, the power supply cable, CPU cable are attached, and other cables are optional. And then I didn't mention, but like I said, there's the other side of fully modular, which is non-modular. Well, there's the other side of non-modular, which is fully modular, where nothing's attached and you get the cable separate and you attach what you need and go with there. But in order to get this inside of here, we're just gonna make sure that the fan is this big circle, obviously, where you can look in and see the fan. That goes down. So it's up like this, so that way air can go out from the bottom. And we're just gonna slide it in just like so. And we're gonna line it up with these holes that are in the back, and I'll show you exactly what that looks like. Okay, so if you look very carefully right here, there are little holes right here that line up. You line them up with the back of the case, and you just take these screws and you'll start screwing them in. So we're gonna go ahead and screw it in, and I'll show you guys how to manage these cables right after. Alright guys, so what we're about to do now is do a little bit of cable managing. We're gonna plug some things in, and really all we got left is to cable manage, plug some cables in. Literally easy peasy. You find where the cable is, you plug it in, and then we're gonna put the graphics card in, and from there we can power on, and we just have to add the RGB strips. But that's pretty easy as well. This is all easy, guys. Simple, easy peasy ways. It's literally adult Legos. I'm trying to tell you that you can build your own PC starting today, and I want to show you guys how. So just keep watching, and we're gonna get there. So first off, the way I like to do it is I'll organize it so that all these cables are in their own little section. So I'm gonna put the motherboard cable by itself. Not by itself all the way, but kind of organize it so you can kind of see what you're looking at. So as you can see, motherboard cable right here, it's this big, long 24 pin connector. It's gonna go into the motherboard and kind of straighten it out and even it out. So then we have the CPU. It says CPU on it. You might not need both of these, but you might just need one. We'll see for this motherboard. But we're gonna untangle it a little bit, set it over there. Next, these are for your fans, for the power. Like I said, we're not really gonna need that, so these are just gonna kind of be on the back burner. You might use this. I'm gonna have to check it out, but I'm pretty sure we're gonna use this. But other than that, we're not gonna use any of these. Those are your Molex connectors, just FYI. And so these are your SATA powers. That's what they look like. They look like a little L on the inside. You set that right there, and then just more SATA powers as well. So what I like to do first, also the PCIe, which is going to go straight to your graphics card. What I like to do is I like to send the motherboard through first. So you want to route this. Most of the time, most cases will have something like right here that kind of opens up that allows you to get right to the motherboard where that port is on the other side. So you kind of want to make it, you have to play around with it maybe, but you want to set it so that it's easy to cable manage when you're done. So we're just going to set this, find a little hole for it to go through. And like I said, I found one right here, right next to the port, and push it through. And I'm going to show you me clicking it in. Okay, so as you can see right here, like I said, adult Legos. A key note to think about is if you're trying to push it in, you have to force it, like extremely force it. It's not in the right spot. So do a little bit more research, look and see exactly where it is. Maybe pull the manual out, Google something. If you have to force it extremely hard, then it's not in the right spot. So there's this little clip right here. And this clip, you can see, will clip on like right here. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna push this together, and we'll line it up. So we push it together so that way once we put it on, it's way easier. We're just gonna flip it, line it up, bottom to the bottom, go straight from the bottom to the top. And then you're gonna hear a little click. Boom, it's in. I didn't force it any type of way, like it just clicked right in. So we have the power going to the motherboard now. It's not turned on or anything, so there's actually no power literally going, but that's what's gonna power this whole thing. Next, we're gonna find the CPU port, or plug, which is right up here, if you see. So if you look up here in this area, there's going to be an 8-pin connector. What you're going to be able to do is just take this, your CPU one, and you're going to funnel it through. A lot of times there's a little hole right up here, and I like to funnel it through. Push that through and pull it, and then we're going to do the same thing. So there's clips on this. You find where it would clip on, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to clip this puppy on there. A couple clicks too. Try and pull it out. It's not moving. You're good to go. So it might be a little difficult to kind of see it, but line it up, get them close together, nice and firm, and then you're just gonna plug them in, and they should go in. And just kind of inspect it, make sure all of them are plugged in the right way, and you should be good to go. From there, we're gonna move on next to bringing the graphics card ones through. We're just gonna push them through. We don't have the graphics card plugged in right now, and that's fine. We like to do that last. It's just something that I prefer to do. To save the best for last, as they say. And push this through, and then we have that just sitting there. Next, we're gonna do the front panel connectors. So all these connectors go to the case. It's what allows you to push the power button and it turns on. Push the restart button and it resets. And use your USB ports and all that good stuff. So I'm going to show you exactly what they look like. We're going to push them through. They're going to go all along the bottom of the motherboard. So that's another reason why we don't put the graphics card on, is because if the graphics card's in there, you're literally going to probably be impossible to get all these plugs in, because if the graphics card's going to be in the way. So yeah. Alright, so a lot of times there's like these little holes right here, and we're just gonna bring these cables through the little hole. That way it makes it a little bit easier for cable management. Boom, so it's literally only like 4 connectors. So these are for your power and start. This is for your audio. This is for your USB, and then I think this is for your audio too. So what we're gonna do, We're gonna find the ones that match up with these, and then we're gonna push them in. They will be labeled. So if you look closely on your motherboard, it'll be labeled. It'll say like HD audio. Plus, some of them are missing like little pins, like it's just blocked, it's plugged up. That's gonna allow you to know if you're pushing it in the right way or not, and if you're putting it in the right location. Like I said, guys, adult Legos. It's literally adult Legos. You can't mess it up. I promise you. Face your fears. You can build a computer. Just let's build this thing. You can do it. Alright, so if you look closely right here, there is one that fits this perfect. So we're just going to slide that in right there. Push it through a little bit. Bring this down. Pull the cable through the back a little. So this cable is being bent when we push it through down here. So we're just going to bring it around from to the side. And we're gonna bring it through here actually. And slide it right through here. And we're just gonna plug it up like that. Make it a lot easier. And there's like this little indicator. You see this little divot or this little thing that's popped up. It's gonna be exactly like that and slide in. It will only go in one way. So you're gonna put a little pressure. And boom. That one was a little tough to get in there, but you should be good. Typically the USB one is kind of hard for me to get in most of the time, so yeah. So next you're going to take these little, one will say power switch, one will say HDD LED plus or positive negative, one will say reset switch, and then two of them will say power LED negative and positive. So you're going to match those up with these on the front jumper. I'll show you exactly where that is now. So with this one in particular, we are going to have to take a look at the case manual. Reason being, or we could have Googled it, but I mean we're going to take a look at the motherboard manual because we could have Googled it, but it's just easier for me right now to just look at the manual. So the reason I say that is because these ports are labeled, color-coded I mean. So there's no little, usually there's like a little table and it'll show you where these ports go, but they are color-coded. So we're going to see what these colors mean and what goes where. Okay, so I set the computer on its bottom so that way it's a little bit easier. Sometimes you might have to move the computer in different ways to get the plugs in. Me, I'm a little blind, so can't really see that good, so I have to get the light on and stuff. But essentially I'm going to show you where I plugged all these things up. That way, you know, it makes it a little bit easier for you. So I whipped out this handy dandy manual, and as you can see right here, the manual will show you all the front panel connectors. Just refer to that. And I plugged them all in here, as you can see. So that is what you're going to do for the front panel connectors. Then I'm going to show you an example of what I was talking about earlier. So as you can see, if this will focus, so you can see there's a missing female connector. Reason is because when you look here, there's going to be a missing one on that too. And it even says audio, and this says audio. So I mean you can't really mess it up. And then this one's USB. We plug the USB. It says USB. It only plugs in one way. It's adult Legos, guys. I promise you. It's not this hard. Promise. So we're going to finish plugging in these connectors. What we're going to do next is we're going to make sure everything's plugged up. We're going to fix it back with cable management a little bit. And then we're going to plug the graphics card in. Put the RGB strips in. Plug the fans up. And give this puppy a test run. Okay, so we're about to do a couple things. So we just have cable management to deal with. So all we're going to do is we're just going to start getting rid of the cables that we're not going to use. So we are going to end up using Molex power. It's going to go and power this fan controller. So we know for sure we're not going to use these SATAs because these go into hard disk drives and we don't have any of those. So we can just kind of fold this up. And usually what I do is I just kind of, there's a little bit of space down here. Just kind of set that in there, tuck it away, out of sight, out of mind. Just like that. And then there's another one right here that we're also going to do the same thing with. And now all we have left is the Molex connector that's going to power this fan controller. And that's pretty much it. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to power our fan controller. So we're gonna do this by plugging in this Molex. There's a female end and then there's a male end. They just plug in and it'll only go one way, so if you're trying to force it too much, it won't go in. Then that's how you know you're going the wrong way. Alright, so essentially what we've done is we've just plugged up the power to all the fans, to the fan controller right here. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take these RGBs and we're gonna put one up here and then we're gonna put one on the side. And so the way we can do that is with these little magnetic things. The way it goes on is just clips on, magnetic, and there's these little rivets that we can put the RGB LED light strips through. So with that being said, I'm gonna show you how these connectors go. So there's a little connector like this. So there's a little connector. One's just that it comes in the RGB LED light strip kit, and it looks like this. And then one side on the end of the RGB looks like this. And you line them up, and you're just gonna hear a little click. Boom, it clicks. And then you're gonna take this other end, and you're going to put it with this other connector that also comes in the kit. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna combine them. This is gonna allow you to run this to the other one. So, a little click, boom. And then this is gonna run to the other RGB strip, and then this end is gonna go on the motherboard, and it's gonna give it power to all of it, if that makes sense. So, we're gonna go ahead and position in the case how we want our LED light strips to lay. So, there are a couple that they round, so those are easy to put on the corners. But yeah, so we're gonna set that up the way we want it, and I'm gonna show you exactly how we set it up and where that pin plugs into. Let's do it. Alright, so if you look closely right there, it says LED1, LED D underscore LED1 and LED underscore C1. These, you can put either one of these in there. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take this attachment right here, and all we have to do is go from here, or from here to here. So we're just gonna route it through there, down, and boom. And that way we only have to use one because it's connected here, goes up, and then I'm gonna connect it here, and it's gonna run through and connect down there. It's gonna give it power. So that's what we're gonna do. As you can see, there's a little arrow indicating it, which way you need to put it. So these are the female side, and that's the male side, and you just boom, plug it in, and then you're good to go. All right, we're gonna do that real quick. Okay guys, so what we've done is we've tucked all these cables away, and since we didn't use a hard drive disk, we have a lot of room in this area. This is usually where the hard drive disk would go, but now that we haven't used it, we have a lot of room where we can just kind of tuck cables away, make it look even, and we should be able to put this back panel on. And I'm gonna put the back panel on, and then I'm gonna set it on this bottom, and then we're gonna put the GPU in, and we're gonna give it a test run. So yeah. Boom, you see how the back panel slides on, no problem. It should be like that, it shouldn't be too clustered, and it shouldn't be popping off. Next, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna lay it flat like so. We're gonna get the GPU out, and then we're gonna set it in there. I'm gonna show you exactly what you need to do for that next. So if you look right here, these things pop off. So you just kind of push in and push out, and they will pop off. Some have screws on some cases, and you just unscrew them, but these in particular, they pop off and you're not able to replace them. The reason they pop off is so you can get the HDMI cable and stuff through there, so that way you can plug up and get video on your monitor. So let's go ahead and pop those out, and then I'll show you how to put the graphics card in. Okay, so we have the graphics card right here, right? A lot of times your graphics card will come with this little thing covering the teeth. Just slide that off. And what you're gonna wanna do. Alright, so as you can see, I only knocked this one out. Reason being is because if you look at the graphics card, it only has that top row. So that's the only row that's going to be knocked out. But on some other graphics cards, you're going to have 2 different ones, and you might need to knock out more than just that. So if you look right here, this is the slot where your graphics card is going to go. This PCIe 16. This, all you're going to need to do is take this, push it down. It's already most of the time going to be open. So as you can see, I can push it up, but this is pushing it down. It's already down. You're going to take this, and all you're gonna do is you're just gonna line it up, and you're gonna push it down. Once you've lined it up, and it will click, and you're good to go. Then we're gonna take this, and as you can see, there's a 8-pin connector right there, 8-pin connector right here. We're just gonna take it, and then we're going to essentially just attach it. So it will only go in one way, just so you know. Boom. Most of the time the clip is going to go in the way that isn't like hard to get. So like if the clip was here, it'd be hard to get to, not manufactured properly. So, and make sure all of them are pushed down just like so. Okay, the key note to remember is there's always going to be a screw over here to tighten down your GPU so that way it doesn't sag and move around too much. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and power this bad boy on. You can take this cable, you can push it a little bit further through so that way it kind of looks a little bit better. So we're going to do that real quick, and then we're going to power this puppy on, and we're going to see how awesome it looks and performs. Alright guys, so we're about to power it on. We're going to see if this bad boy turns on properly. Boom. All the fans are spinning, so you want to check, make sure all the fans are spinning, the back fan's spinning, the stock fan's spinning, the front 3 fans are spinning. Check for the GPU, make sure it's spinning. Sometimes the GPU won't spin right off the bat because it takes a little bit for it to heat up for it to start spinning. But you just give it a second, and as you see, it took a good bit, but it's powering up, and it's not going to boot into anything except maybe your BIOS. But other than that, this is where you would go ahead and start uploading or installing Windows, and the way you do that is through a USB. I have videos on that, so if you want to check that out, there you go to my channel, look up how to install Windows, and you'll see that, and then that way you'll know how to install Windows on your computer as well. What's going on, guys? I want to appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you so much. First and foremost, I hope you guys liked the video. I hope you can understand how to build a computer now from the ground up, and you guys can see it's pretty much adult Legos. But with that being said, like, comment, subscribe. It really helps the channel keep going and growing, and that way we can build as a community. And another thing, if you want to join the community and get a little bit more immersed in it and the people within it, join my Discord. The link's in the description down below. If you're interested in doing a donation for my nonprofit where I gather parts, PCs, peripheral parts, console parts, and money donations as well, I put that together and I give kids essentially a gaming computer or some type of gaming console so that way they can have a gaming experience. If that interests you, GoFundMe link is in the description down below with more details. You don't have to just donate money, you can donate items as well, like I said. Another thing, if you're looking for a computer to be built, please check out the link in the description down below. It will send you straight to my website where you can request what kind of PC you want, and I'll even build it here on the channel. And with that being said, I appreciate you guys for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.